Many leaders spend much of their lives carrying responsibilities that extend far beyond the visible requirements of their role. They monitor performance. They solve problems before others notice them. They anticipate risks. They manage expectations. They absorb uncertainty. And often, they quietly carry the emotional weight of the entire system around them. The assumption underneath all of this is rarely questioned. Leadership becomes synonymous with responsibility. Responsibility becomes synonymous with control. And control becomes synonymous with safety. The more responsibility a leader assumes, the more pressure they often feel to maintain certainty. They believe they must stay ahead, know the answers, make the right decisions, prevent mistakes, keep everything moving, and above all, remain in control. From the outside, this can look like confidence. It can look like dedication. It can even look like strength. But internally, something else is often happening. The nervous system remains vigilant. Attention rarely rests. Every problem feels personal. Every setback feels consequential. Every uncertainty feels like something that must be resolved. And despite all the effort invested in maintaining control, tension does not decrease. It increases. Because the burden being carried is larger than any individual can sustain indefinitely. What many leaders experience as exhaustion is not necessarily the result of leadership itself. It may be the result of believing that leadership requires control, and the moment that assumption begins to loosen, an entirely different possibility becomes available. To understand why so many leaders become trapped in control, it is important to recognize that control did not begin as a mistake. Control originally developed as intelligence. It helped people create order within uncertainty. It allowed coordination. It created predictability. It helped individuals and organizations move toward desired outcomes. In relatively simple environments, command often works. Variables can be identified. Plans can be executed, outcomes can be anticipated with reasonable accuracy. Under these conditions, control appears effective because the complexity of reality remains manageable. But leadership rarely operates in simple systems for very long. As complexity increases, something begins to change. The number of variables expands. Relationships become more interconnected. People respond differently than expected. Conditions shift. Information arrives unevenly. What once worked through command now requires responsiveness. Yet many leaders continue relying on the same mechanisms that once produced success. The need to appear certain grows stronger. The fear of being wrong becomes more costly. The pressure to maintain authority increases. And gradually, attention shifts away from reality itself and toward managing the appearance of leadership. Instead of asking what is actually happening, leaders begin asking how they should respond in order to maintain confidence, credibility, or control. The focus subtly changes. Reality becomes secondary. Authority becomes primary. This creates a hidden tension within the nervous system because uncertainty has not disappeared. Complexity has not disappeared. The leader simply feels responsible for eliminating the appearance of both. And that responsibility creates strain. What appears externally as confidence is often internally sustained through vigilance. The system remains activated, monitoring, managing, anticipating, correcting, trying to stay ahead of everything that might threaten stability. This reveals one of the most important insights in leadership. Control-based leadership often compensates for internal fragmentation. When a leader is not internally settled, force fills the gap. When uncertainty feels intolerable, certainty is performed. When doubt feels threatening, authority is amplified. When trust is lacking, oversight increases. The result is usually predictable. More rules are created. More reporting is required. More explanations are demanded. More pressure is applied. From the outside, these responses appear logical, but beneath them is often an attempt to create externally what has not yet been established internally, and the cost is significant. The more pressure that is applied, the less intelligence remains available to the system. People become cautious, feedback becomes filtered, problems are hidden until they become impossible to ignore. Responsibility begins concentrating at the top. The leader carries more, others carry less. Participation decreases, compliance increases, people do what is required. But they stop bringing their full intelligence. They stop taking ownership. They stop contributing what cannot be measured, demanded, or enforced. The organization may still function. It may even perform well for a time. But something essential has been lost. Reality is no longer being met directly. It is being managed through layers of control. And when leadership becomes more concerned with maintaining authority than maintaining contact, intelligence gradually retreats from the system itself. The effects of control-based leadership extend far beyond the leader. Over time, the entire system begins organizing around the assumptions embedded within it. If leadership is organized around control, people learn to adapt to control. If leadership is organized around certainty, people learn to protect certainty. And if leadership becomes more concerned with maintaining authority than receiving feedback, reality gradually becomes more difficult to see. This often begins within teams. When people sense that certain answers are preferred over others, they adjust accordingly. Information becomes filtered, concerns are softened, disagreement becomes cautious. Feedback arrives only after it feels safe. The goal is no longer accuracy, the goal becomes avoiding disruption. As a result, problems surface later than they should. Small issues become larger issues. Emerging risks remain hidden. Innovation declines because experimentation carries perceived risk. Trust begins to erode, not through conflict, but through silence. Plans are created, resources are committed, expectations are established. And once this occurs, reality is often expected to conform. When outcomes differ from projections, the first response is frequently more effort, more pressure, more explanation, more attempts to improve execution. The assumption is that the strategy is correct and the implementation is failing. But reality may be communicating something else. It may be revealing information the original plan could not see. It may be indicating that conditions have changed. It may be showing that another path has become available. Control-based leadership often interprets friction as failure. Responsive leadership interprets friction as information. This creates a very different relationship with strategy. Strategy becomes adaptive rather than rigid. It becomes something that evolves through contact. Feedback is welcomed rather than resisted. What works is reinforced. What does not work is released. Direction remains, but the form is allowed to change. Vision becomes orientation rather than instruction. It provides a direction of movement without demanding a specific outcome. This allows reality to participate. The leader no longer needs to anticipate every variable. They simply need to remain close enough to reality to recognize what is emerging. Perhaps nowhere is this more visible than in influence itself. Most people assume influence is created through persuasion, through motivation, through communication, through carefully crafted messages. But some of the most influential leaders operate differently. People do not follow them because they have been convinced. People follow them because coherence is recognizable. There is consistency between what is said and what is lived. There is alignment between words, actions, and presence. There is no need to manufacture certainty because nothing is being performed. Others naturally orient toward what feels stable, clear, and real. In this way, influence becomes something entirely different. It is no longer an attempt to manage people. It becomes a byproduct of alignment. The leader is not trying to move others. They are remaining accurate enough that others can orient themselves. And when coherence replaces control, participation begins to return. Intelligence begins to return. Trust begins to return. Not because people are being persuaded, but because reality is finally being allowed to speak again. If control is not the foundation of leadership, what is? The answer offered by this chapter is surprisingly simple. Leadership is not command. It is not pressure, it is not certainty, and it is not performance. Leadership emerges from something much quieter. Internal consistency, responsiveness, presence, coherence. Most people have experienced the difference, even if they have never named it. Some leaders constantly assert authority. They remind others of their position. They reinforce expectations. They attempt to create confidence through certainty. Yet the harder authority is pushed, the less stable it often becomes. Other leaders operate differently. They do not need to convince people they are in charge. They do not need to manufacture confidence. There is a congruence between what they say, what they do, and how they show up. Their authority is recognized rather than asserted. This changes the entire experience of leadership. Boundaries remain clear, expectations remain firm, decisions are still made, responsibility is still carried. But force is no longer required, because clarity does not need aggression to support it. Coherence is sufficient. In this orientation, uncertainty no longer threatens credibility. A leader can acknowledge what is not yet known. They can admit when conditions have changed. They can revise decisions when new information emerges. And rather than diminishing trust, this often strengthens it. People trust leaders who remain connected to reality more than leaders who remain attached to certainty, because reality eventually exposes the difference. Coherence also changes the leader's internal experience. There is less vigilance, less image management, less pressure to appear right. Energy is no longer spent defending perception. It becomes available for discernment, for listening, for recognizing what is actually happening. Leadership begins to feel lighter, not because responsibility disappears, but because responsibility is no longer being carried through force. When what is said, done, and embodied are aligned, something remarkable happens. Nothing needs to be enforced. The system becomes more responsive. Participation increases naturally. Trust deepens. Intelligence returns. And the field begins organizing itself around what is stable, clear, and real. This is authority as coherence, not leadership imposed upon others, but leadership emerging from alignment within the leader themselves. Perhaps the deepest shift in leadership is not learning how to control more. It is discovering that less control may be required than we once believed. Many people define strength as the ability to maintain certainty, to direct outcomes, to stay in command regardless of conditions. But perhaps strength is something quieter. Perhaps strength is the capacity to remain present without forcing resolution, to stay in contact when answers have not yet arrived, to remain accurate without pretending certainty, to allow reality to inform direction rather than demanding that reality conform, to hold authority without needing control. Leadership matures when control is no longer needed to create coherence. What remains is not less leadership, but a quieter form of authority, one that does not need to be asserted, one that does not rely on pressure, one that emerges naturally whenever presence becomes more important than power. And in that presence, leadership becomes less about managing reality and more about participating in it.